RDMS.
Whenever I do fight again, I need Christian Reynoso there on commentary. Otherwise, I'm not doing it.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Reynoso No. We got a fun one today because not only am I talking to somebody that I consider to be one of the top up-and-comers out of the Midwest, but also a homie and a buddy of mine, none other than former multiple-time amateur champion, LFA veteran, and currently just weeks away from fighting for the Absolute Combat League lightweight strap as he faces off against Brock Hammer in the main event, none other than the funky one, Tyler Funky Bones Jones. What's good, homie?
What's up, dude? I'm glad we could finally do this.
Buddy, long overdue. You and I go way back, obviously. We'll get into the whole bromance that is, Reynoso and Funky Bones. No Diddy, but yeah, you got some big stuff coming up, my friend. I know that you've got this fight coming up for ACL 8, which is it's their 8th show. It's a promotion that I've been seeing more and more of, and I know you fought for them before. This is your second fight for them. You're jumping into the main event in a couple weeks. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, man, I feel good. I've been able to be blessed to fight for some of these biggest promotions outside of the UFC, right? So, last time I fought for ACL, I was kind of just blown away with how everything was handled, the little things, and people who have, people that are veterans now like myself, which is crazy to say because I feel like it was only a couple years ago where I was fighting my second fight and it was for a title, But back when I fought Jake Bauer for them last year, I was blown away by the little things. Like backstage, they came in, they told us, hey, we're running on a strict schedule. Your fight's gonna be at this time, no matter what. I don't care if the next fight's a quick knockout. I don't care if the fight goes the distance. You're fighting at this scheduled time slot, no matter what. And as a fighter in the back, that's like a dream. You know exactly when you got to get started, exactly when you got to get warmed up. So that was something I really loved about the way they handled themselves. They're all former fighters. Victor Moreno is the guy who runs it. He's been around. If you look up his topology, he's fought just about anyone and everyone for every promotion. The guy's a great guy to work for, and the photography and the videography of the event too. It blew me away. It is a smaller promotion, but the quality was that on par of LFA or some of these other bigger shows I fought for.
Well, you talk about like being able to lean on a schedule that's placed in front of you and how important that is. That's great and all, but you're fighting in the main event in this upcoming show, and almost as long as I've known you, you've kind of been a main event type fighter. Now, you know as well as I do, that means you're victim to, well, however the card goes. So on October 25th, you're going to be sitting back there, and rather than just being another fighter on this ACL card, you're getting that spotlight for the main event. Things are going to be a little bit different. How are you feeling going into this new role?
Yeah, I think I was just talking to one of my teammates about this a couple weeks ago, and being the main event is a privilege. Um, it's no surprise to find out that we don't get to do this forever. So every time I step in there, especially lately, it's kind of seen as like it's an opportunity, to kind of take this in and let it sit a little bit easier in my head and then kind of in my soul too. I'm not gonna be able to do this forever, so it's fleeting. So to get these main event spots and to get these big fights and title fights and um, opportunities where the spotlight's really shining down on you, it hits home a little bit more. It hits home a little bit more. Even if I have 15 fights left in my career, this is just another one of those moments that I'm going to look back on 10 years from now and wish I can go back to. So I just kind of reframe in my head to sit back there and take these moments in and really just kind of settle in and enjoy this process, enjoy this whole crazy sport and life that we live. Being a main event fighter is it's very interesting because you do have to sit there and it's almost like jumping into a cold pool. Like at first on a hot day, you jump in the cold pool, you're stiffened up. When you get to the venue, it's a lot to take in. All these people are, at the end of the day, this is a card built around us, right? We were the first fight on this card months ago. We couldn't tell. I told you about it, but we couldn't tell anyone else about it, allegedly. Um, and once you get to the venue and you're the main event, it's a shock to the system, right? But then you kind of settle in and you can start to kind of feel the energy and feed off the energy of being that bout that everyone's look forward to at the end of the night. And I'm looking forward to getting back to that role. Even my last fight for Peak obviously didn't go my way, but that was a co-main event spot. Um, and just love that spot too. I get up for the pressure. I love the pressure of a fight night, and especially these big fights with big spots on the card. Just kind of means more.
Yeah, definitely. And it may be, I mean, obviously I'm an outsider looking in, but I've been around you for a long time. It's not something you're unfamiliar with. Like I said, multiple time amateur champion across different organizations. Um, but let's go ahead and I'm gonna just call a spade a spade. I feel like this fight, not too different from your professional debut when you fought in the LFA. You're fighting right now. You've taken on an undefeated Brockhammer who's had, I think, of his 4 fights, of his 4 professional bouts, 3 of the 4 have been for Absolute Combat League. So I'm not trying to say it's like their poster boy or nothing, but you recognize that you're the guy that yes, you had one impressive bout against Jake Bauer for them in the past, catapults you into the main event. But you're fighting the undefeated guy that's been around the block at ACL for a while. Rewind to your LFA debut out in Arizona, you're taking on another guy that at the time had all the hype around him. You didn't mind playing spoiler then. Is this a familiar feeling at all?
Yeah, I love this. I live for this. I feel like I've put my best performances together, with big eye-opening finishes every time I'm in this position. Even going back as far as when I fought Kai Kalsher for my second amateur title. We were in Madison, hometown kid, brought like 300 people, and I shut that place up. And I did the same thing in Arizona when I made my pro debut, and I'm going to do the same thing at the end of October. The the energy I get from feeding off of a room full of people that doesn't want to see me win is intoxicating, to say the least. And as far as Brock is a tough guy. If you look at my career, I've only ever fought tough guys. There's not a person on that list, on that topology, that wasn't either undefeated or on a run by the time that I fought them. So I'm no stranger to fighting the guy that has some steam behind the engine. I'm no stranger to fighting the guy that's one-way traffic, and I think it forces me to kind of rise up to that level and really put on some of my best performances. And yeah, I mean, you're right, 100%. I can't help but think about the Alex Martinez fight in preparation for this fight. They're stylistically very, very similar. Two really physical guys, two guys who are excellent wrestlers, two guys who are ranked as far as topology goes amongst the top. I'm pretty sure Alex was the top amateur in Arizona when I fought him, and Brock's ranked number 1 as a pro in Iowa right now, and I'm looking to take that spot. That's always what I'm looking to do and play spoiler. And listen, I haven't fought at home since I fought Slate. I think that was the last time I fought in Illinois. So uh, it is it's just something I don't do, right? And as a pro, like, unfortunately, from the Chicagoland area, there's really just not a lot of opportunity around here for big fights and big promotions. So if you want to fight for the LFA or Peak or some of these bigger spots, like, you're gonna get on a plane and go fly out and travel. And I think it's a cool way to kind of experience the world, right? I get to do this and travel a little bit and have all these awesome experiences via the vehicle of fighting, which I love so much.
Well, I know that you've had a winning formula at Intercept for a while now. But one thing that I wondered was your relationship with Danny Summers, right? Like he's a fantastic coach, a fantastic role model. Just seems like a great guy all around. He's always been in your corner, obviously, also in the training room. But recently, I had the pleasure of calling him in a professional bout as he made his return to the cage. As you prepare for this fight, now Danny is I don't know what his plans are for the future, right? But now you have the ability to share the room with coach slash active fighter again. Um, is there been any sort of like different insights or different vibe that you've gotten since that since that I say like kind of natural evolution happened?
Yeah, I think just having Danny back, being more active in the training. I mean, that's one thing is like Danny took a long hiatus off, right? But he was always in the room training with us. So when he had those two fights, one for LFA and one for Chicago Cage Fighting, it was just like it was awesome to just have, another body in the room that wasn't coach, right? He wasn't coach anymore during those fight camps. He was a teammate and another body to get better with in sparring and training. And I think Danny and I really fed off of each other, and we were really able to elevate our games inside of those two camps for him. He's kind of right now. I think he's kind of stepping back into more of a coaching role again, for at least for the time being, while he's waiting to prepare for something. So um, he's kind of back into that overseeing everything role. Um, but on the flip side, in both of Danny's fights, right? Like I was in his corner. You know what I mean? So I've also kind of stepped up at Intercept and become more of an assistant coach role. When if Danny's out of town cornering someone else, I'm the one wrapping hands and running the corner for these younger guys. And I feel like I've gained a ton of insight off of that, and just so comfortable in the the semantics of what is fight night, showing up to the venue, getting your hands wrapped, the warm up, the shakeout, an entire camp. I'm running people's pretty all of their Shark Tanks and planning what they're focusing on, and getting ready for specifics and fights while Danny's running classes. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch at the gym right now, and we're seeing people really be successful and really jump skill levels with this kind of formula we've created. And it's definitely helping me too. I think the biggest thing for me right now is learning how to shut off coach mode and go into Tyler's training mode for his fight. And that's kind of a delicate balance that I'm working on. But um, just surrounded by martial arts 24/7 pretty much in my life.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed as well, because I was going to bring up the fact that I do see you in this coaching role more and more often. Like from the bigger shows to the smaller shows that I call out, I'll see you sometimes multiple times in a weekend, and you'll be kind of doing double duty. But another thing I've noticed and caught on to is whatever you guys are doing at Intercept, or whatever you and Danny or the whole team is doing, it's clearly attracting people as well. Because I'm seeing not necessarily like people jumping ship to come to your team, or maybe that's the case, but I am hearing it more and more like, oh yeah, and they're getting in some rounds at Intercept, right? I know you guys are big on cross training. Like somebody that comes to mind to somebody else that's really surging right now is like Angelo Sakopoulos. Like I remember when I started hearing, okay, now he's doing rounds with Tyler and you were working with him, and watching that growth. Um, that's got to be like a real vote of it's got to make you feel good, right? It's great to get the bodies, but it's even better to know that your reputation is preceding you as a team.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm happy just to play any role that I can in doing so. Danny and Anna are such great people, and they run such a great community and gym. That as fighters, especially the pro fighters in the gym, it's kind of our job to attract new talent and make people feel comfortable when they come in the gym and training. And as far as Angelo is concerned, Angelo is almost like a little brother to me now. Like I've kind of taken him under my wing. It goes beyond sparring with him. Like I'm in his corner when he fights. I'm game planning with him, and I'm teaching him tools of the trade, and hell, I'm learning from him too. You know, he's a big, strong, young kid with some serious skills, and he's got a big fight coming up for the inaugural APFC lightweight championship amateur, and I'm excited to see where he goes. And it's cool to be, you know, when I first started going to Intercept, the person who was playing my role was Pierre Walters, right? And I've always looked up to Pierre. I hold pads for Pierre every Saturday now, like just so
Nice.
he stays in shape, you know. And it's cool to kind of play that role myself and be in that sort of position, running classes and being the you know, the information hub for a lot of these younger guys and girls at the gym. And you know, it's no secret that I think at the end of my career, when it's all said and done, I want to be coach of my own fight team and jiu-jitsu program. So this is all great practice for me, you know, but my cat is pissed about that. Um but yeah, so I mean, it's not to say that you know, my primary focus right now is how far can I get as a competitor, you know? Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, we only get to do this once, and it's fleeting. And you know, we're lucky if we get 20 or 30 fights as a whole. So the coaching stuff is great, but really kind of settling in and focusing on myself and my own competitions is key right now.
Yeah, but shout out to the Tzatziki King real quick.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
sure.
gotta get shout out to Tzatziki King and just the top of us.
He's got to just go with the nickname. I coined that nickname. I don't know what he's doing. What is the, what's the other one? The
Surgeon?
The
The
surgeon. I mean,
surgeon?
come on,
That's
bro.
good, I guess.
What are you doing?
But bro, he could get sponsored by like Kronos Euros and shit. Like you don't know, dude. You know,
It could be huge.
I-
The Greek community in Chicago is massive.
Can you imagine the big Opa the fucking community would let out if he introduced it? I'm trying to push Tzatziki King too. I gotta get him on. I'll have to get him on here before his APFC fight. Good dude. So one thing I'm noticing, buddy, is you seem to have like really good perspective right now. Yeah, multiple times you've mentioned that like, you know, this stuff is fleeting and you're not gonna do it forever. Um, Showing real unk evolution, and I appreciate that.
I'm old, dog.
Bro, you can't be old because I'm a lot older than you, bro. Like, so stop. But the reason I bring up the perspective thing, like I said, I've known you a while now, and I think back to one of your fights, and let's get a little uncomfortable here. I think back to your fight against Kevin Souza, August of 2022. That was an APFC fight as well. I think at the time you were like, you had a lot of momentum behind you. I think you were 3-1 or 4-1 at the time. Um, and that was a big fight. And you went out there and it didn't go your way.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you afterwards. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No, remind me.
I talked to you afterwards and you told me, like, we talked very little about the actual fight, like very little. You kind of described it almost like it was an out of body experience. But we did talk about was like at the time you had struggled to get your mind into it. And your mind, like you said, like something happened the day before that you kind of got psyched out a little bit. It may have even been at the weigh-ins.
Yeah.
Now, does it ring a bell?
Yeah.
Real quick, guys.
Yeah,
But
right.
before we go, I'm going to let you run in a second. But what I want to say is, I remember that moment very clearly because now I'm going to show that I'm the old guy. I remember looking at you and I'm like he's figuring this out. After the fight, you had the loss, your heart's broken, but I could see you figuring it out. And I know you can do everything right in the training room, but if things aren't exactly firing the way they need to be upstairs, like, fuck it. It doesn't even matter what you're doing in the training room. But I could see you figuring it out. What was happening in your mind then? Where are you now? Because I know that the guy I'm talking to right now, yeah, 3 years is a long time, or 2.5 years is a long time, but some people do the same shit for their entire carear.
Oh yeah. And what's the difference? It's once you think you figure it out, it comes back and rears its ugly head again. You know, my last fight, I fucking shat the bed. I made a mistake. I got caught. not the result I was looking for. And, you know, at the end of the day, you have to go into that cage and just let yourself go. If you're still behind the wheel, there's going to be problems. And every loss that I've ever had in my career, I've still been behind the wheel and I'm thinking too much in there, and I'm just a little bit too present in the moment. And I think my last fight really showed me just, you know, you gotta just go out there and adhere to the violence of the sport, you know. And someone who's really helped me with that is Barry Hoppin. You know, working with Coach Bear, any fight camp in which I've worked with Coach Bear for, you know, more than a few sessions has devastating results. You know, I fought Casey Boykin for LFA as my last amateur fight. Um, Broke his jaw with a head kick, first round finish. I fought Alex Martinez, worked with Bear the whole camp, first round knockout, one punch. I've worked with Bear probably more this camp, or honestly, because I had a couple fight camps kind of fizzle out. But over the last, let's say, 3 months, I've worked with Bear probably more for these last 3 months than I ever have in my life. So I'm excited to see that fire come back. You know, Barry just kind of lights something underneath me that makes it impossible for me to get into that kind of flat-footed headspace, you know? Um, but yeah, man, I think that APFC fight uh really showed me that I have to want to be there in order to perform, you know? It's not enough to just love the sport and be good at the sport. You have to want to hurt someone and want to be there in that night and kind of put on that performance. And that night I didn't want to be there. And whether that be my opponent's doing or the fact that we were outside or an intermission or whatever the case may be, it's my job to make sure I walk into that cage prepared physically and mentally, you know. And there's been a couple times in my career where physically fantastic. My last fight is probably in the best shape of my life. Uh, but I came out there just preoccupied with other things, you know. So this fight camp, I can go on a list of the things that have changed in my life to put me in a better position to make this performance one of the best performances of my life, if not the best performance of my life. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm showing up there with one goal in mind, one motivation in mind, and that's just to get my hand raised, and that's it. You know, and it's very simple. It's very easy. I'm not overthinking it. We're going in there to have a fist fight, and I'm gonna win it.
What do you think it is exactly that as fighters or martial artists or maybe even idealists, is it that pulls us away from like accepting the violence that is a fight? Because you're bringing it up. I've had it come up other times. I remember it, and like I think there's a romanticizing of the idea of this respectful martial art. Like it is all those things, but I wonder what's your perspective? Why do we pull away from that? Is it fear?
I think it's some fear. I think it's also like it's the high functioning athletes, right? That have a little bit of brain power behind what they're doing, right? Like, no disrespect to the guy, but Mike Perry's never overthought a fight, right? He walks into the cage and he just fights. He's a violent guy, period. Right? I'm thinking, hey, if I land this inside leg kick and then I fake a teep, can I go upstairs with a high kick? Like I'm making those. I love that aspect of the sport, the almost scientific calculations of the sport, you know. So I think that the people that love this sport and the intricacies of the sport, it's real easy to overthink it, right? The people that just love to be violent and go in there and throw down, you know, someone who comes to mind, it's you and I, one of our favorite people to commentate, and I'm
I
not
already know it. I already know it.
Taylor Morrison. Boom. Taylor Morrison's never overthought a fight in his life. You know what I mean? Um, and there's a beauty to that, right? But then I think there's also a beauty um, to going out there and setting traps. And I know you commentated my fight to win match a few months ago, and that was one where I was able to set a trap and get a highlight reel finish. I love that, right? Those things that's my game right there. Is is, can I make you a mistake? Can I make you make a mistake and make you look stupid? And that's my entire game from MMA to jiu-jitsu, and I've done that all across the board. I do things that should only be hit in the training room, right? That's kind of my entire game. That's why my nickname is what it is. It's outside of the box. It's not just ones and twos. It's a lot of different stuff, you know, and that's where I find kind of motivation and can I get this highlight reel finish? You know, it's not enough to just outpoint someone, but can I make it look pretty? Can I make it look fancy? That's part of my game. It's part of what makes it exciting to me. But because that's the high level thinking that I'm going through, it's real easy to just get jolted out of that headspace and be like, what are we doing here again? Like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's unique. And it's funny you should mention that. Yeah, there really is. There's something there's definitely something dangerous to the fighter that doesn't overthink things, right? Because by not overthinking, like there's a beauty to it, right? Like the moment surely isn't going to get the most of you if you're, not, if you're kind of just twirling the jack in the box the whole time. It's like,
Right, exactly.
um, but yeah, I see that you've kind of always been, um, you're not afraid to say like, that you're a thinking man's fighter, right? And that's definitely a completely different approach. But with you saying that, like, you're recognizing that you have to lean into the violence a little bit more, do you feel yourself thinking maybe you need to kind of get a little bit more of that calculated chaos?
Yeah, and that's exactly what these last couple of camps have. Even though the fights didn't kind of come to fruition, that's where the focus has been, is pull the pin on the grenade and let it explode right in front of you. You know, if you step in this space, you're gonna get hurt, type of mindset, and that's where Barry is um so valuable. You know, is anyone in the Chicago land area who's ever been in a locker room when Barry Hoppin is around has heard that quintessential just God damn it, like screaming on the outside. The beard comes in the room before he does, and yeah, man, he lights a fire under my ass. In terms of violence, and I just go into the cage with violent intentions, you know, and one of my other losses, Barry was at the fight for this one too, was when I fought Eli Barzilai out in Vegas at the Palms, which was an awesome opportunity, a big fight. And even that one, I felt like I was a little bit behind the wheel still, but we fucking threw down, you know. Um, that kid and I just went to war, and there was a violent fight, a lot of back and forth, and talk about just kind of a bookmark to see where you're at skill wise. I mean, he just fought for the LFA title and arguably won, in my opinion. Um, and so that's a guy that's steps away from the UFC that beat me by a close decision, you know. And Eli and I stay in touch. We're still friends. Talk about me coming out there to train with him with the fighting nerds and all that stuff, and that's all great. But it's I would be lying if I didn't say I think a lot about the what ifs right now, and this fight, I'm not gonna let it be a what if, right? Brock's coming off a win against the UFC veteran. If I go out there and stop him, which I plan on doing, I take that shine, I take that rub, and I'm two to three fights away from getting looked at for these bigger shows, UFC, PFL, whatever the case may be. So I mean, that's where my head's at, man. That's where I'm looking. I know it's never been a question for me or my training partners or my coaching staff that I have the ability to compete with some of the best guys in the world. It's a question of how am I going to get there? You know what I mean? And I think October 25th is the first new step I'm taking to get back on track here and show why I belong with the best in the world.
Yeah, I think you're wise to treat that Eli Barzilay fight as a good litmus, right? At the end of the day, you're a pro, right? And obviously the pro record is the one that matters, but you don't seem kudos to you because you don't seem shy about referencing your losses, referencing what you can get out of them, and then being pretty pragmatic about what that means going forward. So let's just let's take a little bit of a closer look at this fight, and then I want to talk about your trajectory after that. So Brock himself, aside from having like a name that like Brock Hammer, oh, that's an aggressive name, coupled with the mustache. I'm not going into it, but like obviously, other lines of work would really you'd benefit from that mustache and name. I'm just saying, dog. But he himself, aside from that, you take a look at his record. I've seen some of his fights. At this stage of your career, you're not going to get this far without being able to do a little bit of everything. But he does have plenty of his 4 wins. 4 wins as a pro. 3 of them are coming by way of submission. I consider you very well rounded, but also very skilled in the grappling. As you said, I commentated your fight to win. You're grappling against real, at the grappling against other grapplers isn't the same as grappling in an MMA fight. And you're able to do well in both situations. So do you foresee this being a matchup without going into game plans that is going to be maybe grappler versus grappler? Is it going to be those netting off and turning into a striking fest where maybe you'd thrive? Or what do you see how do you foresee these chips falling?
I just want to be violent everywhere, no matter where the fight goes. If we're on the feet, touching them up, I believe that I have the better striking and definitely more experienced striking. I've had entire fights now where I've kept the fight standing and just banged it out, right? So if we can have the fight take place there, that'd be great. You know what I mean? But I know that he's gonna dive on my legs, and people forget that I'm a grappler, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really shown it in any of my professional fights at all, which is kind of crazy. I run like a competition grappling class at Intercept, and you guys know me around here as just like there was a point in time where I was doing super fights almost damn near every weekend and winning a good chunk of them against some of these best guys on the scene. But I've kind of stepped away from that to focus a little bit more on MMA. But my grappling's there, and I can be an exciting grappler, and I can get exciting finishes. So, my game plan, and I'll just be outright with it, is to just give a full mixed martial arts performance. Wherever the fight goes, it's no secret. Wherever the fight goes, just try and be violent to my best ability. If we're in the clinch, I'm making him want to get out of the clinch. If he's in on a takedown, I'm making him want to get out of a takedown. If he's in my guard, he needs to get out of my guard. If I'm in his guard, he does not want me there anymore. And if we're on the feet, it's very simple. Just touch him, So, yeah, it's kind of freeing to go into a fight and just let the chips lie as they may, and let's just fucking fight. That's really what the game plan is start a fight.
Dude, that's awesome. Buddy, I gotta tell you, man. It's great to see like how much you've grown. Like, granted, you're a grown ass man when I met you, but you were pretty early on in your fight career. And I'll tell you when I met you. You and I met May 30th, 2021, and the reason
Is that
yeah. The reason I know that is because that's the first time I ever called a fight. The first show I ever called was with you. It was Fight Car Entertainment 67. It was May.
the clip of the guy getting knocked out.
That's like the first. So, man, what is? Oh fuck! I was gonna take me a minute. Dan, oh fuck!
There was Alexis Rodriguez.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the guy that got knocked out. Oh shit!
We're gonna pull Alexis Rodriguez.
Yeah, I got this. I'll watch this. But what I was gonna say is, yeah, that was mayhem. Yeah, there's a clip of you and me losing our fucking mind as Alexis Rodriguez got this crazy knockout. But what I was gonna say was, so that day, let's see, I got it here. It's gonna bother me till I find it. Duncan Murphy. I was saying Dan, but it was Duncan, the legendary. And correct, May 30th, 2021, Fight Card 67.
I'm Duncan, dude.
Amen, dude. That day it didn't. So that day was the first time I ever got to commentate. I wanted to commentate forever. I emailed a million promotions. No one would give me the time of day. And finally, Fight Card Entertainment called me and a couple of other old fighters. And they're like, hey, why don't you guys come commentate a fight for our first show back after the pandemic? So I show up. It's like me, Lloyd Carter, Terry House, and they're like, oh yeah. And then there's the other guy. The other guy is Tyler, and I was like, who? And they're like, over there. And you're like, you're sitting there with a tie, and you got a ponytail and shit. And I'm like, man. I'm like, granted, we're all old, and some of us have better pro records than others, but we all fought. We're all pro. And they're like, I'm like, who the fuck's this guy? And they're like, oh, he's like, like he's a really good amateur, and he's gonna be on the booth with you guys. Nilo's telling me this. And DeRay Davis is there, and he's already butthurt that he's not like in the broadcast booth. So we're all like, I mean, what's the deal with this guy, you know? And we sit down next to you, and I'm kind of like, yeah, what's up? You know, whatever, right? And then I think it was during, like, you and I obviously start warming up pretty quickly. But by the time that Alexis Rodriguez fight happens versus Duncan Murphy, you flipped on your live, and you and I completely lose our shit. And I think it's been fucking, the rest is history, buddy. You and me have been homies since.
100%.
It's funny, man. I feel like back then, it's not that long ago, 4 years, man, but it feels like a lifetime ago. Um, you talk about how people don't know you grapple. Back then, I was like, oh, he's a wrestler that's doing MMA now. Um, I mean, you're brown belt jiu-jitsu now?
Yeah, brown belt in jiu-jitsu now. When I fought Slate, back in, what was that? That had to be 2019 or something like that. Maybe 2020.
No. Oh, yeah. After.
Yeah. Oh, it was after it was the second show back. I was a blue belt. I was a blue belt when I fought Slate.
That was like July 26th or something like that of 2021.
I was a blue belt in 2021. So I've climbed up pretty quick here, and yeah, man. I mean, dude, this fucking sport is my everything. It's my life. Quit my job when I made the day. Now that people know this, I'll tell this story. This is not a good story, but it's a story. I worked for a steel construction business for a long time, and the boss, my boss was an old family friend. I had known her my whole life. She scooped me up out of college. I worked my way up to a director of administration position there, which, you know, I was in charge of a lot of stuff. You know, it was not an easy job, and my boss, the day before my pro debut, or the day before I left for weigh-ins in my pro debut, she went into hip surgery. She had successful hip surgery that Wednesday, and LFA fights are on Friday, so I was leaving that Thursday. Thursday, I get a call from her cousin, who is our office administrator, saying that she unexpectedly passed away. There still it was like blood clots or something like that, but I'd known this woman my whole life. I was not looking for another job at the time. All of my eggs were in that basket and MMA, and I was teetering on the decision of just doing this full time after that fight. But then I went out there and knocked Alex Martinez out in about 1 minute and 45 seconds, and I have not worked a full-time job since then. I've just been teaching martial arts and training and you know, picking up side gigs ever since, just chasing the dream. And yeah, this is my everything, man. Like, this is my life's craft has been dedicated to this sport. And, I'm lucky and blessed to be able to do it every day and do it at a high level. And thank God I could speak to a group of people and teach. You know, I know a lot of. It's always like every time I look at fighters who like go back into like the job force or something, like guys in the UFC or something like that, right? I just don't understand it. Like, oh, just open up a school and teach. But some people cannot teach. Like, some people can't instruct. And you know, I give kudos to my high school wrestling coach, Mike Fumagalli, who would take me to John Tutai's gym every Tuesday night. And when I was in high school, and Coach Fumo and I would teach wrestling to jiu-jitsu guys. When I was in high school, I was teaching wrestling classes at jiu-jitsu gym. So I've been teaching a long time now, and yeah, man, I'm blessed to be able to do this for this long, and thank God I'm solid at it.
I'll leave you with this, bro. So there's the people like you, and I put you under the same category as like you hear like Demetrius Johnson says like he remembers the day that his coach was like, you got to quit your job, and he he was able to, he had a career and he left it and he went all in on fighting, and obviously we know how that worked out. I will say this: there's some people, and you got vulnerable with me, I'll get vulnerable with you. Like I left my career to pursue fighting for a couple of years. And I don't know. I don't think that having the in the back of my mind a safety net of knowing that you could go back to a career or there's maybe a job waiting for you. I don't know if that served me as a fighter, versus like you talk to me about your perspective, and you realize you're like, hey, I've left that. This sacrifice, that is directly correlated with how important this is to me, right? I think when people aren't programmed like you, and I'll say like myself, maybe even whatever was going on for me at the time didn't allow me to have that sort of frame of mind. And I think having been had I been in a situation like yours, that may not have served me well. That didn't serve me well, right? Whereas you were able to realize like, hey, no, this is my career, and I'll do it with or without a safety net. I think that speaks volumes about you. It speaks volumes about your mindset. Speaks volumes about your evolution as a person. Since I met that kid with a ponytail that I didn't really want to work with on May 30th of 2021. Evolution of your hair. My God, so many evolutions.
I know, man. Look at this thing, dude.
Dude, I've been, dude, I've about being here through the fucking roller coaster of friendships. I've seen the cornrows, the ponytail, the mullet, the now the Slim Shady, a little,
It's different. I don't know.
buddy, all of it. I'm a fan of all things Funky Bones Jones. So why don't you tell everybody how they can keep up to speed on all things Funky Bones Jones as well?
Yeah, man. Toss me a follow on Instagram, Funky Bones Jones. I'm trying to post a ton of content now. It's something that I've really prioritized over the last couple months is just try and take whatever of my journey I can that I can post on social media and share to you, my followers. Family and friends that are outside of the gym don't get to see too much of me. It's just the curse of being a MMA fighter and or coach. Like we just talked about, like so much of my time is dedicated to the craft, and there's days. There's days where I have 16 hours in the gym, with privates and teaching and other things. So that's the best place to follow me and just follow my journey. And yeah, man, October 25th, Absolute Combat League main event, pro title. Be my first main event, first pro title opportunity, and I cannot wait to just go out there and show this motherfucker who I am. I'm excited.
Let's go. Well, awesome. As you heard, follow him at it's Funky Bones Jones. That's Funky Bones Jones. Easy enough on Instagram. Stay up to speed with the funky one. And of course, October 25th, the ACL belt is up for grabs. And my boy, Funky Bones, vies for that lightweight strap. Thank you so much for joining me, brother. And yeah, can't wait to see what happens on the 25th. We're always pulling for you, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me, bro.
No doubt.